Hey friends, welcome back to Pastor's Wives Tell All. Today we get to chat with a sweet pastor wifey we made at a Pastor's Wives brunch 2 years ago in one of our favorite states, Texas, Alex Young. Alex has been married to her best friend Caleb for 7 years and a student pastor wifey for 3 years, and currently is a student and family pastor's wife. She is a stay-at-home mama to 2 of the sweetest little girls with a small cleaning business on the side that she uses to be the hands and feet of Jesus. She loves to spend her time baking and pouring into girls and women. In this episode, we dive into Alex's story of surviving a dark mental health journey following the birth of her last daughter, postpartum, depression, and psychosis. Friends, this conversation is heavy and does mention suicidal ideations. If this is a trigger for you or you have little ears listening in, you may want to stop right here. For the rest of us, this conversation will be encouraging for those of you walking through your own mental health journey while in church leadership and those who are walking alongside pastors who are struggling too. Now let's get to our conversation.
Hi, I'm Jessica.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Stephanie.
And you are listening to Pastor's Wives Tell All,
A podcast by pastors' wives for church leaders and anyone desiring to take a peek inside our glass house.
We are breaking down walls and crushing pastors' wives stereotypes within the church.
We want pastors' wives and other ministry leaders to know that they are not alone in this. Plus, this is basically therapy for the 3 of us with a whole lot of dance parties. Whoop, whoop.
Hello, Alex. We are so excited to have you on the podcast today.
It's Alex.
Yay.
We love her.
Guys, we absolutely love Alex. We actually got to meet you for the first time. Was it 2 years ago when we had a meetup in Texas, or was it three years ago?
It was a while ago.
I feel like it was 2 years ago.
Or it was
Not
two.
It was 2 years ago.
In January.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
And we got to see you and you came to eat breakfast with us. That was
I
the first
did.
time.
Yes, it was so fun. It was
I
like
know
I'm
it
a
was.
bit fangirling right now. That first time. It's like I listen to these ladies all the time and I am major fangirling at the moment. So, you know.
Oh my goodness.
Aw.
Well, we
Yes.
love you. And then we got to see you at a retreat in Missouri last year for the first time.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, which we'll kind of get into a little bit. But
Okay.
yeah, you are our friend. We're so excited to have
Yes.
you on and just
Yes.
to hear your testimony today. So, for all of the people that do not know the beautiful Alex, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and a small testimony of how you came to know Jesus?
Yes. So, my name is Alex. I am married to Caleb. He is a youth and family pastor at FBC Holiday in Holiday, Texas. That's First Baptist. But anyways, I have 2 little girls. We have a 3-year-old, Millie Grace, and then a 7-month-old, Nora Ann. And they are just, y'all, light of my life. Yes, light of my life.
They're adorable.
They are.
They-
They're precious.
Y'all, I can't deal with it. I'm like, y'all are too cute. You are going to have your daddy bald by the time here soon. His hair's going to start falling out. But anyways, so I have 2 little girls. I met my husband in 2018. We got married in 2019. Y'all, literally like a day less of a year is when it was almost a year when we got married. So we were like, we knew. We were like,
knew.
I guess I want to be with you forever. You know, he's great. But so we started ministry in 2020 and then kind of as volunteers and then full-time started in 2021. But a little bit of my testimony of how I came to know the Lord. So I actually came to know the Lord when I actually have it in my Bible of when I was baptized, which was like a few weeks after. So I think that was July of 2005 is when I accepted Jesus into my heart at a VBS. I could not tell you how old I was. I can't do math like that quick.
Me neither.
the
It's
cuff.
okay.
We feel you.
No
on that.
judgment.
It's okay.
It's fine. I mean, elementary school for sure, but accepted Jesus then. It was obviously so fantastic after, which is not at all the case. I could walk the Christian walk, talk the talk, make everybody think that, I was on fire for Jesus. But deep down inside, I was not. I did not truly know the Lord, which I think is huge for people to make sure that they understand they know of God, but they don't know God. And so after high school, I found myself getting involved in a lot of just worldly things that as a pastor's wife, I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, God, like, do you know what I just went through? And you calling me to be a pastor's wife? Okay, I'll take it. But anyway, so got caught up in a lot of the worldly things. And then I had a really surreal moment with the Lord. It was probably in 2016 where I was dealing with some anxiety and depression, which obviously comes up in today's story. But I actually was debating my life at that moment because I was like, God, I can't do this. I feel so empty. All this stuff I'm chasing after is just leaving me broken and more empty. And I don't want to do it anymore. And kid you not, I look over. I hadn't touched my Bible in ages, y'all. My Bible was open to the Good Shepherd. It sounds so cheesy, but that's just how it happened. I looked over and I just felt God pull me to my Bible. So I went over and I read it. And it was like, in that moment, I was like, holy cow, I don't know Jesus. Like, I don't know this Good Shepherd. I don't think I'm a Christian, in all honesty. And so that day I gave my life over, I like to say rededicated, and that can get messy in the church, but rededicated my life to the Lord. And yeah, after that, obviously it's not still sunshine and rainbows, but I know the Lord. So yes.
That's awesome.
I love your story.
Thank you guys.
Because it sounds like Jenna's kind of.
Yeah.
Where you just think you got it, but then you get older and you realize, wow, like I don't have a clue who Jesus really is.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing that, because there's a lot of people I know in our churches who may have just said a prayer and thought, yeah, I'm good, but have no intention of following Jesus, have no like heart for him, do not know him, just
There's
did
no
the thing that needed to be done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
That's so good. Okay. So Alex, we are going to get into a very heavy conversation here, but before that, can you just dive into maybe some of the beginning stuff with you and your husband in ministry, just some of that journey that you've had since 2021?
Yes. It is it's going to be hard because I want to kind of forewarn, I know there's going to be people from my past church that hear this, and I want to extend empathy, but also they're going to hear some really hard things that I think they could possibly be ashamed of after they hear it. So I just want to make that known. I am walking through this very gently. And I mean no malice about anything I say, but it's just what happened.
It's part of your story.
Yes. So we started ministry in 2021. Caleb was so we were just volunteers. And this kind of is what's funny. I knew God was calling me to ministry, but I was like, I'll volunteer. I get to go Sunday, Wednesday, and then that's it. Like, I don't have to do anything else. Well, end of 2020, we had a huge turnover. Literally we have our past church. We had 4 different pastors in our youth program. It was kind of a mega church, but every pastor that they had just hired that January actually all left. They all left. And at first we were like, holy cow, like that's kind of mean. You're only here a year and then you leave. Little did I know, I can kind of understand why. But at the end of 2020, they approached my husband because we were volunteering. They knew we both had hearts for students in ministry. And they were like, hey, we want you to come just intern over at our West campus and kind of be the youth guy. It's not full time. You can still work your other job. He was working a different job at the time, traveling. So we were still only there Sunday and Wednesday. Well, little did we know, the fall or summer of 2021, they officially offered him the youth pastor job over there. And I was like, this is not the ministry I intended to be part of. I just wanted to volunteer, and now I'm a pastor's wife. So it just really full circle moment. The Lord's got a good sense of humor. And so fall of 2020 and was when he officially started full time, accepting the offer. Well, we unfortunately, I like to joke, we were thrown to the wolves. During that intern, there was no shepherding. There was no discipleship of them like, hey, this is how you run a youth ministry, or hey, this is how you just go about ministry life. There was none of that. There was no shepherding at all whatsoever. And so we went in, y'all, like as blind as bats. I hope bats are blind because I use that quite often. So sorry.
I feel like maybe they are.
They have to be.
Well, I think they would have to be.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow, Alex, you've got my wheel spinning now.
Okay. I like to make up my own phrases. So
I like it.
It's all good.
Yes.
So does Jessica.
Anyways,
We're good.
I know. I just listened to that episode and I was like, that's me. Jessica is like, she's my spirit animal. Is that a thing? Like, you're my spirit. You're
There's
my
someone
spirit
like me.
mama.
There's
I
so
don't
much
know.
good that comes from the things you say.
I love
Okay?
it. Exactly. We bring
Be
life.
encouraged.
We add personality to everything.
We sure
but
do. There you go.
Anyways, sorry. So we went in blind as bats. We had no idea what we were doing. Caleb had no idea how to like go about ministry, how to dedicate his time to what, do this. And at one point he did ask, after he got the position, he asked one of his older pastors in the church if he would, take the time to maybe mentor him and shepherd him. And he unfortunately was just straight up, he's like, I don't have time for that with you. And so I try not to get bitter because it's just where the heart was. The church was a very much production church. It was not a let's pour into our pastors and let them go out and do the work, because they were taking on everything. And so we knew that was not our forever home. We knew, so kind of a little backtrack. I want to preface, Caleb had absolutely no schooling. He had no degree, no nothing, like hadn't even started seminary. So for them to take a chance on us was a God thing. Like it truly was. They saw Caleb's heart for ministry, and I'm so thankful for that. But he had no schooling, no experience. So it was really great that they took that chance. But in that, we were like, okay, we know God brought us here because this allows us to have experience, because he's got 4 other pastors over him. We joke he was an overpaid intern. We don't really feel like we had the pastor role, but it's really not all about the roles or the title. But we were just overpaid interns. And so it was a time for Caleb to really learn. And what we took from it, unfortunately, was more so of what we didn't want to do at our next church. And there's a few things we were like, okay, this is pretty cool. We want to do this. But it was quite a bit of, man, this is just a slap in the face. We keep turning our cheek, another slap in the face, and we just kept trucking through it. But it got to the point Caleb was like, I don't want to do ministry anymore. He's like, this is just completely burning me from wanting to be a ministry. I can do another job. And so he went in and had a conversation about it. But they obviously told him what he wanted to hear. And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll work with you. We'll shepherd you. And it worked for a week. I kid you not, a week that happened. And then the next week it was like, hey, I don't have time this week. So it just went right back to it.
Right.
But actually this summer, so Caleb stuck with it. And this summer, kind of during this time that we're about to talk about, Caleb was approached by the pastor here at our church now, FBC Holiday. And he's like, hey, I want you to apply. And so we were like, okay, first off, God, this is the most like insane time to make a big change like that, but we trust you. And to be quite frank, I didn't think he was going to get it, but the Lord knows better. And so hallelujah, we are here at this church, and it's it's been a game changer.
That's
Full
awesome.
game
That's
changer.
amazing.
So, yes.
Praise God.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
Hey, friend, we will get right back to our episode, but we want to take a moment and thank our patrons. You guys keep our podcast going.
If you are not a patron and you would like to consider donating to our podcast ministry, we would be so grateful, and we might even do a happy dance.
When you become a patron, you get perks like being the first to hear about special info and retreats. You get bonus episodes, monthly devotionals, lock screens, and more.
Plus, we have added a new $1 tier for those who believe in us and what we're doing, just because you love us.
So head on over to our show notes and click on the Patreon link to learn more. Now let's get back to our episode. Okay, so fast forward to last year at the Missouri retreat.
Yeah.
When we met you for the second time, actually, you were pregnant.
Yes, with our
And
second.
it's adorable, by the
You
way,
know.
of course.
That's right.
And so you were having some complications with your pregnancy at that time. Can you share a little bit about those complications and the ups and downs you had while you were pregnant?
Yes. So kind of backtrack on that a little bit. I was told at 16, I believe it was, I would not be able to have kids. And so it happened from a medical injury. I don't have to get into that. But was told after that, I wouldn't be able to have kids. It damaged my reproductive hormones. And so not knowing I could have kids, I mean, we tried. We had Millie. Millie was breached. And so we had to do a C-section, which fantastic. That's a whole nother thing. Was fantastic. And then last year it took us quite long. It took us quite some time to get pregnant with Nora. I think it was about 9 months of trying with Nora. And so we finally were able to get pregnant. A fear that the doctor instilled at me at 13 was, hey, if you do get pregnant, the baby's not going to last. Won't survive it to full term, be a stillbirth, whatever. And so even though we had Millie in fantastic birth, I mean, pregnancy's miserable as it is. I hate being pregnant, y'all. It's a gift. It is a gift I will never want to take away, but it's great. And so Nora, it took us some time with Nora, and I think that instilled a little bit of fear of okay, this took a lot longer than it should have. This is going to be a lot more difficult than Millie's was. And thankfully, the pregnancy as a whole wasn't terrible. But obviously, having another baby after a C-section has its, its things. I experienced a lot of pain during this pregnancy, and we couldn't figure out why. It was ultrasound, everything, all the testing, everything came back great and clear. And so it was okay, well, why am I in so much pain? This was to the point, I mean, I actually had to stop working a month and a half earlier than I had planned to. And so I was threatened bed rest quite often. The doctor's chill. You need to stop and maybe you won't hurt so much. And even when I did, I was still in excruciating pain. And so finally we had Nora, C-section, and it was fantastic. And we were told at my 2-week appointment, I had actually had a partially ruptured uterus. And that, for those that don't know, is actually fatal most of the time. There's 3 layers to it, and 2 of my layers were ruptured, and the second layer was so thin that they could see Nora's little face through it. It's supposed to just be this pink wall. You're not supposed to be able to do that. And so I'm thankful the doctor waited, because I think I would have stressed out the entire time in the hospital. But the doctor said that had I tried to have a VBAC, which was something I debated, and y'all, it's crazy. I won't get super into it. I actually, anytime I thought about having a VBAC, I would have nightmares. And I kid you not, it sounds dramatic, but nightmares of me dying. And I was okay, I don't think I want to do that. And so a few weeks beforehand, I told the doctor, I was listen, this sounds really dramatic, but I think I'm going to die if I try VBAC. So I'm just going to stick with the C-section. Come to find out, he told me that had I tried a VBAC, me and Nora wouldn't have made it.
Wow.
Because a completely ruptured uterus is very fatal, especially to the baby, possibly to the mama. So yes.
I think that was the Lord.
Oh,
That was
100%.
Oh yeah.
100%.
Y'all,
Yeah.
at
Gosh.
this point, I'm like, God, I've never heard you speak to me through a dream until like now. And I'm like, okay, I got you.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Thank
And
you.
also just like the mental, like, I mean, when you were at the retreat, you were in my small group. It was
Yeah.
a lot of it is just mentally, you're in
Yeah.
pain constantly,
Yes.
but also your mind is going back to your 13-year-old self going like,
Yeah.
is my baby going to make it? Like
Yeah.
that's a constant thing for a mother to
Yes.
imagine. I mean, I think
Mm.
mothers in general that are giving birth worry about that in some way during those 9 months of going,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
are things going to be
Yes.
okay? And then,
Yeah.
so gosh, it sounds like you grew a whole lot during that
A
time.
whole lot. Yes, they did.
And then you heard from him in a dream, which is amazing. And yeah, we believe that
100%.
happened and he protected
Yeah.
you because
Mm-hmm.
he had a story to tell
He
through
did.
you and which is so cool, which we get to get into a little portion of your testimony today of what has been happening over the past
Yes.
year. So you delivered Nora, you came
Yes.
home. Okay. Praise God. Everyone is home. You're getting used to having a family of 4. And then postpartum depression, psychosis starts to take place in your
Yes.
life. So
Yes.
can you kind of share, I mean, maybe start with a definition of what that is.
Okay.
And then also tell us what signs you started to have.
Mhm.
And then we just want you to be able to share your testimony of kind of what took place during this time.
Okay. So I wish I would have looked up the actual medical definition for this, but postpartum depression psychosis is you obviously experience postpartum depression, which is more than just baby blues. This is like, I think it's like after the 6-week mark, if you're still feeling this depression, it's now category of postpartum depression. The psychosis aspect to it, most people that go through this have like hallucinations, they hear voices. I mean, it's literally a psychotic thing. I mean, I always told Caleb I literally felt crazy. Like I did. It was just the most unearthly, unworldly feeling. It was awful. I wouldn't even wish that on my worst enemy. But so that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
What
were some signs you had? Like
So-
just to kind of look for.
Yeah. So the signs that I had, I actually didn't have a whole lot beforehand. And that's what surprises me. It was literally a like moment of just, I had a psychotic episode, but I had experienced this heaviness just over me and couldn't figure it out. And I had postpartum depression with Millie. I knew what to look for, and I'll kind of get into it, but I felt great the first part of my pregnancy. Like I was so surprised. My family was surprised. They're like, wow, you look great. You sound great. And I was, and then out of nowhere it hit. But, something that happened was I had a moment where I just kind of heard this voice that was not mine in my head. I told Caleb, I was like, the thought voice that's in my head, we all have a thought voice. We know what that sounds like. It sounds like us. And that was far from it. That was not my thought voice at all. And you can kind of see why later or here in a little bit. But it was just this deep despair feeling that led into this psychotic episode that leads into the rest of this. So I didn't hallucinate or anything. I just felt this heaviness and then it hit. But I definitely heard this evil thought voice in my head. So if that kind of explains it.
Yeah, that's
I'm just wondering what was being said.
Yeah. Go ahead. Share. Go ahead and get into it, girl.
Go ahead.
So Nora. Nora's my second one. I get their names confused all the time.
It's okay.
Awful.
We all do. It's fine.
Gosh.
Same.
Nora was, I want to say 2 months. Had her in April, camp season started very last week of May. Well, 2 weeks before Caleb left for camp, I was like, babe, I don't feel right. Like I was doing so great. Like I felt great. I felt joyful. I mean, everything. I had another sweet baby. I wasn't supposed to be able to have that we worked really hard for and had her. I was safe. Like I didn't die, as dramatic as it sounds. But I was like, I don't feel right. Like something feels really heavy and I can't quite figure it out. And how I told him, I was like, it's this cloud. It's this like dark rain cloud just hovering. It was like, it's not on me, but I just feel like something's lingering. And, you know, Caleb obviously made sure I was okay. And I was like, I think I'm fine. Like Nora, we were still trying to get her to sleep through the night. Thankfully, not long after that, she started sleeping through the night. But I was like, I think I'm just tired. Like I may have a little bit of postpartum depression trying to set in, or just the anxiety of like, you're leaving for camp. There's no way I'm going to an amoeba-fested lake with my 3-year-old, much less my almost 2-month-old. So it's like I'm staying home. And so I was like, maybe I'm just anxious and, kind of brushed it off. Well, 2 weeks later, Caleb leaves for camp. We had a pretty decent week. I still felt this heaviness and I just could not, for the life of me, put my finger on it. And so through that week, I really was like, God, like I don't know why I feel this way, but I feel like something bad's about to happen. I need your protection right now because I don't know what's about to hit, but I just feel it. And so Caleb comes back. He's gone from Sunday to Friday. He comes back Friday. Well, that whole weekend from Friday to Sunday, I was sick. Nora got sick, so I didn't get but maybe 3 hours of sleep that entire weekend. Mind you, being tired of taking care of 2 kids by myself for a week. And so come Sunday, I knew I was exhausted and I was like, okay, we're all going to bed. It was 8:30, love camp season because we go to bed super early when Caleb comes home. I'm like, I can do this. 8:30 is good. We get in bed at 8:30. I'm laying there and I cannot fall asleep for the life of me. I don't know what's wrong. This heaviness is getting like deeper and closer and literally feel like it's like sitting on my shoulders. And I was like, okay. So right around midnight, I got up and went into the living room. Something I've started doing because I hate scrolling at midnight. I start looking at things and I get angry, postpartum hormones, you name it. I'm like, I don't need to read all this right now. I'm too extra for this. And so I went in and I turned on the TV. I love to turn on worship music. And I just sat in there and I just sat with the Lord. I was sitting on the couch at this time. And just started praying. I was like, God, please, whatever this is, I know this is evil because it feels evil. It feels demonic. And I was like, God, in your name, I pray that you may make this feeling flee. As soon as I finished that sentence, it sounds so unworldly, but it entered me. And all of a sudden it was, I want to die. And I was like, oh, hold up. What? And again, did not sound like my head voice that I have. And it was like, hey, you've got a lot. You're about to endure a lot. Let's just go end it now. Before you have to go through this. And it was just, y'all, I don't even know how to process words to communicate how, what was going on, but that's the gist of it. And all of a sudden, this deep feeling of despair and, I hate saying this, desire to die just entered my heart. And I threw myself face down on the floor. I always was I think it's David. At one point, he throws himself down on the floor on his face, praying to God. I always thought that was weird. And then this moment hit, and I was like, I am face down on the floor in tears, violently shaking, because I am so honestly terrified of what this was. And so was like, God, please, and like begging God. And then finally, I'm not quite sure what happened between that moment and then this next moment. But obviously, I was fine. Everyone in the house was fine. But next thing you know, I kind of pop out of what is the episode that we come to find out I had, and standing in front of my husband's dresser. I want to give a PSA real quick. We do have guns in our house, and that's where this is about to come in. They are up very high, locked out of the way, where neither of our children can reach. So I just want to make that point, because who knows what's going to be said. But anyways, so I kind of popped out of this episode and was standing in front of my husband's dresser, just with the gun right there.
Hey friends, we hate to stop this episode right here, but don't worry, there is more to come next week. Don't miss it.